Hello, boys and girls. We're going to try a different form of recording for this week, so let me know how you think. Today, we're going to talk all about word problems that are called multi-step word problems. So if you see here, a multi-step word problem, the only difference from the word problems we talked about last week are that they are going to have more than one step. Sometimes you're going to have to add a couple times, sometimes you're going to have to subtract a couple times, sometimes you're going to have to add and then subtract, or sometimes subtract then add. So that's the only difference. You're still going to do the same thing. You're going to read it twice, if we see here. You're going to underline the clue words. You're going to circle the important numbers. You're going to box out the question, and if there's any extra information, you're going to cross that off. So if we attack this word problem here, we see Jake had $23 in the bank. He earned $10 for taking out the trash, then he spent $5 on Captain Underpants and $7 on the second book. How much money does he have now? So I know that I need to read it carefully twice, so I'll go back and read it a second time. Jake had $23 in the bank. He earned $10 for taking out the trash. Then he spent $5 on Captain Underpants and $7 on the second book. How much money does he have now? So let's go back, let's underline the clue words. So I see had, that's a clue word because that's how much he started with. Earned, I know, well, let me redo it's not going to work. Earned means added. He spent, I know spent means subtract. And how much money does he have now? I don't see any clue words in there. So circle important numbers. I know $23 is going to be important, $10 is going to be important, $5 is going to be important, and $7 is going to be important. And now I need to box the question, so I'll just box out this whole thing at the end here. Box the question. Now I'm ready to attack the problem. So I know he started with $23. And then he earned, so earned is a word that means plus $10. So I add that up, and now he has $33. Now I know that I'm not done though, because he then spent some money. We see that he spent $5 and $7. So he spent that much. So he spent a total of $12. So spent means that he subtracted. So he had $33 from what was in the bank and what he earned from taking the trash, and then he spent $12. So if I subtract that, that gives me $21. So he ended up having $21. I just really had to take my time. There was a lot of numbers and a lot of steps, but as long as I took my time, I realized that it really wasn't that difficult. I just needed to make sure I followed all my steps, and then obviously I would need to go back and check all those steps. So here's our problem that you're going to work through, and then I'll go back and I will solve it with you. It says Mr. B drove 180 miles on Tuesday and 75 miles on Wednesday. Over the weekend, he drove 357 miles. How many more miles did he drive on the weekend than during the week? So pause the video now and solve it. So hopefully you paused the video and you solved it. Now let's go back. I had read it one time, so I'm going to go ahead and read it a second time for myself. Mr. B drove 180 miles on Tuesday and 75 miles on Wednesday. Over the weekend, he drove 357 miles. How many more miles did he drive on the weekend than during the week? So looking for clue words, I see drove is going to be a clue word. Tuesday, Wednesday, those are going to be clue words because that's going to help me keep my stuff on track. Weekend, drove. How many more is going to be a clue word. I'm looking for important numbers, so that's 180, that's 75, 357. Gonna box out my question. And now let's go back. So I see on Monday and Tuesday, well, first of all, I'm trying to figure out how many more miles did I drive on the weekend than during the week. Now, many more knows I'm going to subtract. So on the weekend, I drove 357 miles. And I know I'm going to subtract something from there. But I want how much during the whole week. Now, there's two different ways that I could approach this. I'll show you one way. One way that I would do this is I would take up how many miles I drove during the week. And I would add those together, 180 plus 75. 8 plus 7 is 15, so the 5 goes down and I carry up the 1 because I can only have one digit in each place value. And now I would subtract 255 from 357, which would give me 102 miles. So there's, I had to add first, would have helped to include my addition sign there, add first and then subtracted. The other way I could have done this was I could have subtracted twice rather than added and then subtracted. So 357 subtract 180, because that's how much I drove on Tuesday. 7 minus 0 is 0. Can't take 8 away from 5, so I'll need to go bar group of 10 from here. Make that a 15. 15 minus 8 is 7. 2 minus 1 is 1. Then that's how much I drove. That's the difference between the weekend and Tuesday. So now I need to take the difference between that and now Wednesday. Which then I arrive at 102. So either way I ended at 102 miles. Two different ways to approach it, but I needed to make sure that I did the whole problem and not just part of the problem. Alright, your final problem is going to be a problem all about Connor and his birthday. It says Connor got 147 new toys for his birthday. He lost 67 of them the next day. However, Mr. B bought him 27 more, which didn't leave Mr. B with very much money. And how many toys did Connor end up with? So Connor wants you to solve this, bring it to school, and I will see you tomorrow.